St. Lucia is home to the only drive-in volcano in the entire world. Otherworldly mountains, natural hot springs, and rainforests make this destination an absolute must for your next cruise or Caribbean getaway. I've been lucky to have visited this island twice now, and I actually wound up doing almost the exact same thing that I did the first time around, because unfortunately when we were looking at cruises, I overhyped the sulfur hot springs to my boyfriend, which basically made it that we absolutely have to do that. It is a non-negotiable, so that's on me. You also don't really have to book an excursion on this island if you don't want to. There are plenty of taxi drivers outside of the cruise port that you can hire for about $100 to $150 per day. Entrance fees and food costs are also pretty low. All in all, you should be able to keep your entire day under about $200. Make sure you do just bring enough cash. They will accept US dollars, however, the official currency is the Eastern Caribbean dollar. So St. Lucia actually has two different cruise ports. However, I've only been to Port Seraphine. Smaller ships may dock at what I believe is pronounced La Place Carnage. If you're at Port Seraphine, when you arrive, you'll go through an indoor shopping center. You can keep walking through and proceed out past through Diamonds International till you get to the smaller section with a bunch of vendors, and that's where you can find tour pickups as well as any taxis. The port also does have a couple of restaurants if you're interested. However, I've never personally eaten at any of them. So what can you do on St. Lucia? The Soufriere viewpoint is an absolute must in my opinion. Once you've reached Soufriere, which does take about 1.5 to 2 hours from the port in Castries, these are absolutely beautiful pointed mountains. It's very common for tourists to point on top of the mountain. We do have photos like that. It was only because the guy was like, yeah, put your finger there, like point at it. A lot of people do it and it can be fun. The views are honestly just absolutely phenomenal. I think the mountains look extremely unique. That's part of why they are so famous. There are also a bunch of vendors in this area, so if you wanted to buy something, however, they do appear to be cash only. There are also some people walking around. They tend to fold leaves into different shapes, such as fish. They do typically want a tip for this, so if you don't want to give a tip, make sure that you don't take this from them. There is also a bathroom here if you need it, however, it does cost $1 to use. Another big thing is going to be the volcano. This is going to be right by the sulfur springs, as it's actually the runoff from the volcano that heats those. You're able to go up, walk around, and actually see boiling sulfur. This is very cool, but you do need to be careful. There is a small fee to see this, which can be paid, where you can also pay for the sulfur springs. I actually didn't go to this time around, but I did go to it the first time I was on the islands. I highly do recommend it. It's a very cool little experience. The St. Lucia sulfur springs I also think are a complete cannot miss. Believe it or not, it does not reek of rotten eggs. The sulfur springs are these heated dark pools that are runoff from the volcano, which, as I said, is just up the road. It does cost $10 to get in, and you're gonna probably want a dark colored bathing suit, as sulfur can stain lighter colors. Also, make sure you bring a towel because they do not provide them. The sulfur baths does have cubbies that you can put your stuff in, so don't worry about having to put things on the ground. I also didn't have any problems with anyone taking anything, particularly since I'm lugging my camera around. It's a little bit of a fear. Also, prior to getting into the bath, you do cover yourself in a light mud, and then you also take a dark mud and then draw on yourself or whoever your travel partner is. It's just a lot of fun. This is some of the minerals that can get soaked into your skin. Once you're covered in all this mud, that's when you can go ahead and get into the bath, although you could skip the mud, I guess, if you want to, but it's kind of removing some of the fun. The hottest bath is going to be up at the very top, and then as you go down, that's when it gets a little cooler. The first bath, I believe, was definitely 100 degrees, and then the very last bath was closer to the temperature of a hot tub. I would recommend trying the hottest bath. It does take some acclimating once you step in. You kind of get in slowly, and once you're there, it was relaxing, and then you could also wash off the mud. Make sure not to stay in these for too long, as you can dehydrate and you don't want to overheat, particularly since St. Lucia is a very warm tropical country. You don't want to have any health issues. Once you're done, they do have showers and changing rooms, so you can rinse off whatever you need to. I would, however, recommend leaving your suit on for your next stop. And if you'd like, afterwards, there are a bunch of vendors on the street, and I actually saw a cat and a chicken walking around. If your next stop is the waterfall, this is why you should have left your suit on. It's only about a 10-minute drive from the sulfur springs, and it is an absolutely beautiful place to stop. It does have a $3 entry fee, and the water is a little chilly. If you do decide to go into the actual waterfall, just be careful because the water can be pretty hard, but as long as you don't have any neck or back issues, I would say you should be okay. The ground of the pool that the water flows into is also a bit rocky, so if you'd like, you can wear water shoes to protect your feet, but honestly, most people do go in barefoot. And when you're done here, they do have changing rooms, so you can go ahead and put on something nice and dry. Marigot Bay is a really beautiful place to also stop to see the views. It's only about 15 minutes away from Castries, so this is something that you could stop at your way back to port. If you look down, you might notice it looks a little familiar if you've seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, because they actually filmed some of it here, so that was just a really cool thing amazing to see. I had no idea, so I was really grateful that our driver stopped to point it out to us. Of course, you can't go somewhere without trying the local cuisine, at least in my opinion, so I would highly recommend that you try some local Saint Lucian food. We wound up stopping at a place called Marie's Local Cuisine. When we got there was a bit of a buffet. Unfortunately, I don't really know what anything was called, but I enjoyed every single bite of it. They also had a yellow hot sauce that I absolutely adored. Unfortunately, was able to find it at a vendor to take some home. They actually just call it hot pepper sauce. That's fine by me, nice and simple. Saint Lucia is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, a lot of the most popular sites are very far from the port. You are going to want to start your day probably pretty early, particularly if you're going from Castries down to Soufriere. Remember, as I said, it is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Saint Lucia is a very mountainous island, so you're going to have to go up and drive around, and they've been experiencing a lot of construction, so a lot of the roads aren't very even, which can delay travel times. If you do decide to go with a non-cruise tour provider, because of the distance between things, do just make sure you keep track of the time, because you would definitely not want to miss your ship. If you'd like to read my blog post on Saint Lucia, you can check it out on my website, Eat It in Thread. I'll leave the link in the description below. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you found this helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Slow down, hold on tight now. It's okay to meet me at the front line. I've got cold feet, winter drives